heading now into the quarterfinals. And let's take a look at those quarterfinal matchups. We're going to start with Saturday, then we're going to get into Sunday. Saturday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. You heard it here first. It is the London Knights and the Sioux Falls Sparrows. 6:30 p.m. Eastern on the SFL YouTube channel. Can the Sparrows, Tyler, shock London across the pond, or will the Knights live up to the hype? What is your initial thoughts here on this first matchup, 8-1, starting us off next weekend?
Well, it wouldn't be the first time a team shocked London this season. In fact, Motor City just a week ago at home in Detroit, Michigan, shocked London, beating them 38-31. So it's not something that we haven't seen this season. But the big test will be for the Sparrows. They did have to overcome Houston in a nail-biter earlier today. That is going to be put on the test. It's going to be one of the best defenses going up against one of the best and most productive offenses, especially when you're talking about London and their running game. Robert Merrill, of course, leading the way, not Johnny Pickler for the most part this season.
London did get the win earlier this season over Sioux Falls. Sioux Falls played a very methodical style against Houston's defense today, although they gave up a lot of rushing yards to G.P. Wells, and Robert Merrill is running downhill. So it's that is kind of a scary matchup there. But that game earlier this season resulted in a 16-10 London win, Tyler. Now, it was in Sioux Falls, but Sioux Falls gave them all that London could handle. And if memory serves me correct, Tyler, there were a lot of picks in that game from Johnny Pickler, a lot of forced slants up the middle. Sioux Falls was all over it. It was an ugly, drawn-out game. And Sioux Falls wants to muck it up, just kind of like they did against Houston today in that one. So that's going to be a very interesting matchup there between London and Sioux Falls. Okay, Saturday evening, rather. That is going to be Vancouver and Mexico City, the 6-3 game. That is Saturday, 8:45 p.m. Eastern. High-flying Vancouver faces ground and pound Mexico City. This is a playoff rematch from a couple of times, I believe, they have met in the postseason. And, contrasting styles. Vancouver trying to get over the hump, get a second playoff victory, right, and get out of that second round. And Mexico City playing for a legend, Matt Wilson. They don't want it to be his final game. They don't want any game to be his final game. But at this point, the clock is ticking on his season as they do their best to send him home a winner. This game's going to be full of emotion and full of intrigue next Saturday.
And here's the crazy part about this matchup, Cam. They have met twice in the playoffs, Vancouver and Mexico City. Both games decided by a field goal, and both games were played in Mexico City. Third time possibly for the charm for the Legion to come out and spoil everything for the Aztecs? Or does Matt Wilson get to fight one more weekend?
Man, it's, I mean, you look at the storylines and you look at everything going on in that game, it's going to be one for the history books, and I hope everyone is able to tune into that one. That'll be on the SFL YouTube channel. Tyler and I will preview Sunday's quarterfinal matchups when we come back. You're watching the SFL postgame update here on Next Level Sports. Don't go anywhere. Our last two quarterfinal previews up next. All right, back here at SFL Studios for our continuing quarterfinal preview coverage as Vancouver takes out Fort Worth tonight, 28-17. The South, the first division in SFL history to get all 4 teams in their division into the playoffs, and 3 of them lost in the wild card around Mexico City, hoping that they are not the 4th next Saturday evening. All right, Sunday afternoon, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, heading into dark. It's D.C. Baltimore, Tyler. 3rd time's the charm for D.C. They certainly hope so because they got waxed twice this season. In week 1, they lost 26-6. They had no offense going. Baltimore's defensive line dominated. And then in week 14, just 2 weeks ago, the last time Baltimore played, in fact, they scored 6 touchdowns on their first 6 possessions and ran it up on D.C. and won 45-30. So I know it's tough to beat a team 3 times in a season, Tyler, so how does D.C. pull out the magic here?
Well, they got to see Baltimore at the beginning of the season. They got to see Baltimore at the end of the season. Now they get them in the playoffs, which is a completely different beast entirely. Baltimore, however, have always been strong. In their first round of the playoffs, they seemingly always get out of the first round, sans season 14 when they lost after an 8-4 season. But after that, 3 championships, Baltimore only the 2nd seed. That's no stranger to them. DC are going to have to completely contain Jack Wigmore, or Winmore as he's called in other parts of the league. And they're going to have to play efficient ball. They cannot come out slow and sloppy like they did against Minnesota earlier this weekend. They have to start on the right foot. If they can do that, maybe DC knocks out Baltimore.
Yeah, that would certainly be a shocker. Baltimore will come into that game pretty big favorites, but DC is they know all about going on the road in the playoffs and pulling out wins. That was what their season 5 run was all about. I know that was ages ago. We're living in the past, right? But you just never know. Stephen Mullinex has been a part of beating Baltimore before in the playoffs. If you remember way back, the Dallas Roughnecks beat the Baltimore Crabs, which was run by Tim Johnston, and knocked them out of the playoffs. It was on the road. Baltimore was heavy favorites in that one. And DC's won some road playoff games too. So it's going to be interesting to see what DC can cook up. And hey, Tyler, I mean, worst case scenario, you already know what doesn't work, right? Because you lost to them twice already this season. So maybe DC is able to cook up something different against the Vultures. Our final game, and this is our next level sports game of the week next week. It is Sunday night, 8:45 p.m. Eastern. It is Arizona and Florida, the 5-4 matchup. The Scorpions red hot, 52 points against Lone Star. They lit it up, but they did lose to Florida earlier this season. Florida has been a takeaway machine. Florida won the first matchup 30-23 in that game. Ashley Jackson threw 3 interceptions, and Florida was able to edge out the victory. This one is going to be at the eye. It's going to be rocking, but this should be a stellar matchup between 2 legendary teams and coaching staffs as well.
The last time these 2 teams met in the playoffs, Cam, I had the privilege of calling said game. Arizona was on a Cinderella run in the playoffs. They came in as a wild card team in a 7-5 season. They take down opponents left and right. They meet Florida and lose by 7. This, not only for this season, but back in season 17, is a true revenge game. We already saw Fort Worth try and take some revenge out on Vancouver. That didn't work. But when you put Mighty RX and Eddie Gage in one stadium, who knows what'll happen? 2 great play calling minds defensively and offensively are going to be on display, and expect Ron Cochran and Ashley Jackson, the 2 quarterbacks for Florida and Arizona respectively, to have another duel at Fort Lauderdale.
And a good point by Fox in our community chat, exclusive to SFL players and members. The higher the seed or the lower the seed, the worse the result. Number 9 lost by 1 this week. Number 10 lost by 11, then 12, then 19. And it's it is interesting, right, Tyler? I mean, people talk about, well, we got to expand the playoffs because the team with the winning record got left out. But this weekend proved that not only were the home teams able to win all of these games, but the better the team in the regular season, the more convincing the victory. None better than Arizona last night.
Truly on display. And what can else be said? It's sucked to see Tulsa not make the playoffs this season. And again, if we had expanded like the league had past, half the teams in the league make the playoffs. We're talking about Tulsa playing in these playoffs and maybe having a shot, but it goes to show you expansion might not be the best thing for good competitive football. We saw that in spades throughout this wildcard weekend.
Yeah, unfortunately, the best game of the weekend was not here with our TV audience, Houston and Sioux Falls earlier today, but that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. And Fort Worth put up a good fight in the second half, made it a game, and they're obviously a quality team. Anytime, Tyler, you see a team not lay down and roll over in the second half and really make a game of it, they even shut Vancouver out in the second half. You know that was a really good team. They just did not have a good first half and came out flat, and it got them sent home. So next week, next Sunday night, same time, same place, Arizona and Florida. Tyler and I will be back here for that matchup. Chris Curtis and Aaron Alexander will have that call. We're looking forward to that game and all the quarterfinals next weekend. For all of us in the Simulation Football League, he's Tyler. I'm Cameron Irvine. Thank you for joining us. It's the SFL presented by APM Music on Next Level Sports. And we'll see you guys and gals next weekend. Have a great week, everybody.